Hello everyone, welcome to the CloudLearn AWS Zero to Hero series. This is the day 28. In this video, we are going to have some hands-on exercises on the VPC topic. In the last video, we have covered the theoretical part for the VPC and also we have seen few components, right? Just I have created a small diagram to understand this better. The purple color rectangular box is a VPC network in which we have two smaller subnets. One is a public subnet and private subnet. Also, I have labeled the CIDR ranges for the main VPC network, ranges for the public subnet, range for the private subnet. Each subnet must be associated with a route table. Here, I have chosen a separate route table for two different subnets because one is a public and the second one is a private. If I use the same, the single route table, then both the subnets becomes either public or private. And here, this is a public route table. Public RT stands for public route table, right? Public RT stands for public route table. And by default, you will get this one. By default, you will get this default route. To make that route table becomes, we created this additional route in order to make that route table as a public route table. And this public subnet is associated with the public route table, hence it becomes a public subnet. Because of this route, the public RT is connected to the internet gateway with which it can communicate with the internet. And if you observe in the private route table, there is no additional route through the internet gateway. There is no connection between the private RT and the internet gateway, so that the private subnet cannot communicate with the internet. But the public RT and the private RT are interconnected with each other with the help of the default route, so that these two can communicate with each other. Means here, if you have one EC2 instance, here you have another EC2 instance, these two can communicate with each other in this way. Like this, these two can communicate with each other. Now, what we are going to do is, we are going to create a new virtual private cloud, with one public subnet and one private subnet. To make that public subnet as a public, we need one public route table. We need another route table for the private. But whenever you create the VPC, by default, there is a route table called main route table that will be automatically created, which act as a private route table. The main route table in the customized VPC. Custom VPC means the VPC which we are creating for our requirement. In that, the main route table act as a private route table. Hence, you can skip the creation of the private RT and you can use the main RT as a private route table. Okay, right. So let us jump into the hands-on exercise. So already I have created the notes or a lab exercise thing with the detailed steps, what all we are going to perform and all. For the VPC, this is going to be the network. Okay, most of the people might get confused with these IP ranges and all, but being a solutions architect, a basic understanding is enough. No need to be an expert in the networking at all, just a basic understanding. Just some few things I will explain. What exactly the meaning of this selected CIDR range? So here there is a 16, right? After slash 16 means 16 network bits. 16 network bits. In this entire network, for every computer, the 192.168 is going to be the constant. It will never change. If any of those two numbers got changed, that IP address belongs to a different network. In a layman's term, in a layman's term, I can say 16, right? 16 divided by 8, how much? 2. Means these two are going to be constant in the entire network. What about the public subnet? 24. 24 divided by 8 means 3. In the public subnet, every EC2 instance IP address starts with 192.168.1. That's it. That's it for us. Don't think about what is the slash 20, what is the slash 18. Then you have to calculate a lot of things. But for now, to learn the AWS, 1624 is more than enough for us to understand the concept of VPC. Or if you want to know about that, there is a website CIDR.xyz. Okay, what is our thing? 192.168.0.0/16, right? Means in this network, total how many IP addresses are there? 65,536. Like what is the total? How many numbers are there in 1 to 100? Easily you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 100. The same way, in this 192.168.0.0/16, there are 65,536 valid IP, sorry, 65,536 IP addresses. But there are, you have to do -2 because there is something called network ID, broadcast ID, which we don't care at this stage. Okay, so here 124 means 24 means 192.168.1. These three values are going to be the constant. Means this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 256. Sorry, 255. Starting from 0 up to 255. You can't go like beyond 255. For everything, there is some calculations and all. For that, you must know how many bits are there, binary number, decimal number, right? Just if possible, I will create a separate video on the IP addressing version 4. See here, first usable IP 192.168.1.1, last usable IP 1.254 means from 1.1 to 1.254, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 up to 1.254. What is the count? 256. But here, what is the count? 254. Because there is a first and last will be excluded. 1.0 and 1.255 are not usable IPs. Not usable IPs. Okay, so now let's get into that. Yeah, here it is. What exactly our plan is, create a VPC and the name of the there's a custom VPC because we are customizing as per our requirement. My first VPC in Northern Virginia region as per the below requirement. These are the ranges, CIDR ranges. So first let us create the VPC. Let us go step by step. So in which region? Northern Virginia. So first I will make sure that I am in Northern Virginia region. If not, just change the region. Clicking over the name of the region and choose in whatever the region you would like to create. Then in the search, type for virtual private cloud, or you can type VPC. Click on that VPC, which will take you to the dashboard of the VPC service, like homepage of the VPC service. But I don't want to directly get into the creation process and all because already I said by default you will get one VPC in every region, right? Let us verify that. How many VPCs are there? One. How many subnets are there? Six. Why? In the Northern Virginia, there are six availability zones. So by default, you will get one subnet in every availability zone. How many route tables? Only one. The reason is in the default VPC, all subnets are public subnets. So they create only one route table called main route table, and that is a public route table. How many internet gates? Internet gateways? Only one. Let me show you. On the left side, if you click on your VPC, there is no name for the VPC, but this is the ID of the VPC, VPC ID. What is the CIDR range? 172.31.0.0/16. Is it a default VPC? Yes. Let me click on subnets on the left side. You can check there are six subnets. If I click on route tables, there is only one route table. And if I scroll aside, is it a main? Yes. For the default VPC, the main route table act as a public route table. For custom VPCs, Main route table is a private route table. I will show you that. Okay. How can we say whether it is a public route table or a private route table? Select the route table and here or click on the route table ID and you can see the routes. This is a regular default route 172.31.00 VPC CIDR range. Target is local. And you can see 0000 through IGW. Target is internet gateway. Means it is a public route table. And let me click on the subnet associations tab. How many subnets were associated? Six. Means all six subnets were associated with the public route table and hence it becomes a public subnet. All subnets become public subnets. And here internet gateways, only one internet gateway. What is the state attached to which VPC? The VPC with the ID called 57679. Now we are going to create all these components for our custom VPC. How to do that? Just go back to the your VPCs. Here you can see one option called create VPC. Click on create VPC. There are two different options, VPC only and VPC and more. If I choose this, all will be automatically created. See here, auto generate, CIDR range, how many availability zones to, how many public subnets, how many private subnets. Like I will say one public subnet, one private subnet, yeah, one avail NAT gateway, everything I have to choose. Then automatically they will create two subnets, public and private, two route tables, network. But I don't want to create this way because everything will be automatically created in the backend and we can't understand the concept. For that reason, I will create every component one by one. So don't we use this VPC and more in these videos? Yes. In the coming videos, let us create one more video using this VPC and more option also. But initially, just try to use this VPC only so that we are going to create every component manually and you can understand the concept properly. Name tag. What is the name of your VPC? I'm going to give it as a my first VPC. What is the CIDR range? 192.168.00/16. And remember, these are a private IP address ranges. This one I can give you the list. One is a 10 series, 10 dot something is a private IP, 192.168 is a private series, 172.16, 172.17 up to 172.31. These are the private IP addresses. I will explain all those things in the IP addressing session. I will create one video. So this and then, yep, you can keep. I don't want IP version 6. I'm okay with IP version 4. Tenancy, we have a two options, default and dedicated. Dedicated means a dedicated hardware will be allocated to create your network and all, which is a costly, but the process is the same. Click on create VPC and the VPC got created. But this VPC doesn't have any internet gateway, no subnets and nothing. But by default, one route table will be created. I will show you that. The moment once the VPC got created, I will go to the route tables. Just do a refresh. Can you see another route table got created here? If you scroll aside, you can see the first one is the route table belong to my first VPC. Is it a main? Yes. And let me scroll aside. Click on the route table ID just to verify. There is no route which is a 0000 through internet gateway. So this is a private route table. Good. Now what is the next step? We need to create an internet gateway. And this is the name of the internet. You can give any name, that doesn't matter. You can use ABC, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Okay, how to create the internet gateway? So on the left side, click on the internet gateways. Click on create internet gateway button on the right side. Give a name and create internet gateway. Not yet done. Not yet done. Okay, let me click on internet gateways and it displays the newly created internet gateway. But what is the state? It is not attached to any VPC. Means we created, but we haven't mentioned that this internet gateway is for which VPC. That's why it is not yet attached to any VPC. So here, select that internet gateway, actions, attach to VPC, choose the VPC. Actually, we have a two VPCs. One is a default VPC and the second one is a my first VPC in the Northern Virginia region. But why it is not showing the default VPC in the list? The reason is the default VPC is already attached with an internet gateway. You can only attach one internet gateway per VPC. That's why it is only display the list of VPCs which doesn't have any internet gateway. So select this my first VPC, attach internet gateway. Okay, done. Then it's time to create the subnets, right? We have done up to the step C. And here the public subnet, I would like to use this as a CIDR range, and I would like to create that in the US East 1A availability zone. So how to create under virtual private cloud? There is an option called subnets, create subnet. Choose the VPC in which you would like to create the subnet. So I would like to create the subnet in my first VPC. Choose that subnet name. I will say public subnet name, availability zone US East 1A, 192.168.1.0/24 is my preferred CIDR range for that. What happens if I do something wrong? Something which is not in the main range. Let me try. 10 is not a part of 192, right? This is not within the range of the, I mean, if I ask you to choose a number between 1 to 100 and you have chosen 3000, which is invalid, right? The same way, it won't allow you to choose a CIDR range which is outside of the main VPC IP range. Okay, so here create subnet, but just I have given the name as a public subnet, but this subnet is not a public yet. When it will becomes, if you associate this subnet with a route table, which is a public route table. By default, the new subnet will be associated with main route table. But unfortunately, the main route table is a private route table by default. So to make this subnet as a public subnet, navigate to the route tables, create route table. I will give the name as a public RT name, just a name. Remember, because of the name, it will never become a public. Choose the VPC as a my first VPC because I would like to create the route table in my first VPC. Create route table. So one route table got created with the name called public route, public RT, but it is not an actual public route table. This is the one, right? How to check? Click on that. There is no route through the internet gateway. So how to make this as a public route table? By creating an additional route in the public RT route table. 0000/0, and the target will be IG internet gateway. How to do that? Click on edit routes, add route 0.0.0.0/0. Target should be internet gateway. Which internet gateway? Click here and from the drop down choose my first VPC-IGW. Save changes. That's it. Now the route table becomes a public route table. Now the subnet, the public subnet must be associated with this public RT. How to do that? Again, go back to the route tables, click on the public RT route table ID, and you can see multiple tabs here, right? Click on the subnet associations, edit subnet associations, and select the public subnet. Right now, the public subnet is associated with main route table. And now by selecting here, we are associating this with public RT. Now the public subnet is a real public subnet. Okay, now let me create the another subnet, which is going to be the private subnet. And what it is, the CIDR range is 192.168.2.0/24 with US East 1B availability zone. Create subnet, subnet name, private subnet, availability zone preference will be 1B. and create subnet. So here, by default, this subnet will be associated with the main route table. Main route table is already a private route table, so it becomes a private subnet. But if you want to create a separate route table called private RT, you can do that. How to do that? An extra step, not required. Create route table, give a name called private RT, choose your VPC, create route table. A new route table got created. See here, private RT with only a default route. Here, click on subnet associations, edit subnet associations, and choose private subnet. Don't choose public subnet. If you choose public subnet, the public subnet will be associated with the private RT route table, and your public subnet becomes a private subnet. Okay, what happens now? We have created a public subnet, right? We have created a private subnet, and we have prepared everything, whatever is displayed in this particular image. Now, what exactly we are going to do is, I will create one EC2 instance here, and I will name it as public server. And here I will create one more private server. Obviously, it will have a public IP. It will get a public IP and private IP. And this only gets a private IP. Even if you assign a public IP forcefully, it won't work. If you want, you can do that. We have a concept called elastic IP, right? Assign an elastic IP forcefully to the private subnet instance. It will not work. It will not work because it doesn't have any connection with the internet gateway. Okay, now what we are going to do is create an EC2 instance. Let me say public server in public subnet, then log in to the public server using public IP or the whatever the way we use, right? For that, what we have to do, we need to note down the public IP. We will note down the private IP, but that's useless. We can't log in using a private IP, right? I think we know, but we will note down that username, password. Then we will create an EC2 instance called a private server in private subnet. Then log into the private server. Public IP actually not applicable. Private IP, yes, it exists, but no use because you can't log in using the private IP. Then how to log in? That we will see. Okay, so now let us create the EC2 instance. How to do that? Let me log into our already we are right. Okay, so let us navigate to the service called EC2. Click on EC2. Just we are navigating to the EC2 service. Click on instances, launch instances. Just one thing you have to change. I will show you that. So here I will give a name called public server. I will choose a Windows EC2 instance because easy for us to log in and all because it's a graphical user interface. Let me choose 2016, but you can choose any AMI, that doesn't matter. The concept is going to be the same. Okay, Okay, so EC2 instance type T2.micro because it's a free tier eligible. Key pair name. Up to here, everything is safe. If you click next, 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 then what happened here is the EC2 instance will be created in the default VPC. For that, I will click on edit. Earlier, we don't have an option, but now you got an option called my first VPC. Okay, so public subnet, but auto assign public IP is disabled by default. You have to select this one. You have to choose enable, or else again, once the instance got created, you have to assign the public IP manually. So creates, okay, already we have a security group, right? Windows RDP. Can I choose that? No, because the security groups are network specific. If you create a security group in VPC1, that security group cannot be used in the VPC2. For every VPC, you have to create the security groups individually. Okay, this is a Windows machine. And to log into the Windows machine, we will use a remote desktop protocol, right? So here I will give a name called Windows RDP because I would like to allow RDP traffic from anywhere so that I can log in to my Windows machine from anywhere. See here, RDP traffic is automatically selected from anywhere IP version 4 address. Launch instance, which will take a 2 to 5 minutes of time. While it is getting created, what I do is I will create this also in the private subnet. Okay, so let me click on view all instances. It is initializing. Okay, launch instance. Let me give the name as a private server, any name that doesn't matter. Okay, browse more AMIs. Windows Server 2016, I would like to choose because it can run with T2.micro. If I choose the latest one, it takes a hell lot of time to log in, to set up and all. So I don't want to waste that much time. Okay, so instance type T2.micro, key pair, this, same key pair. Edit, VPC is going to be my first VPC and subnet is going to be the private subnet. If you assign this like enable also, there is no use. Okay. If you want, you can try that also, but no use of public IP. Public IP can't be used in the private subnet. Now I will choose select existing security group because just few minutes back we created one called Windows RDP. Okay, launch instance. So what happens now? These two instances got created. Now let me note down the details just to check how to log in to those two EC2 instances. Just to check how to log in to those two EC2 instances. What all we need? Public IP, private IP, username, and password. Let us note down all these four details for each EC2 instance. First, for public server, here is the public IP, right? So can you guess the private IP? At least the first three octets. Public subnet. What is the private side range? 192.168.1.0/24. 24 means 24 divided by 8 is a 3. So definitely the IP address starts with 192.168.1. Let us check that. See here, 192.168.1.15. Obviously, the username for all Windows machines are administrator. How to get the password? Click on connect, RDP client, RDP client tab. Click on get password and key pair, upload the key pair, and then just click on decrypt, and you can see the password for that particular EC2 instance. So the moment once the instance got created with the auto generate password, you have to wait for at least 4 minutes of time. We refresh. What happened? Okay. So here the status check is still initializing. It is the instances are not yet ready. So whenever you see such kind of, please wait for at least 4 minutes to get the password. Don't worry. Okay, just wait for a few more minutes until you see the status check completed. That's the best time to see your password. Okay, right. So let me refresh the page. Let me try to connect. Okay, if you see, public server is ready. 2 by 2 checks pass means by now, the password might be available to decrypt and to check. Same procedure, get password. See here, upload the private key file, which is available here. Decrypt password, and this is the password. Okay, in the same way, let us note down the details of the private EC2 instance also. There is no public IP. Even if you have a public IP, there is of no use. Connect RTP client, get password. Let me upload the private key file, decrypt password, and here is the password. Okay, now let us see how to log in to both EC2 instances. So how to log into a Windows machine? We need to open the remote desktop connection. The same way how you log in. But the only problem is we need to use a special method to log into the private instances. Okay, so we have to use the public IP 54.87.129.20. The moment once you got this, just enter the username and the password. Whether it is a public instance or a private subnet instance, you can't use a private IP to log in. You have to use only the public IP address because the public IPs are the only IP addresses which can be accessible from anywhere. See here, successfully, I logged in to the EC2 instance, which is in the public subnet. It's a small machine, T2.micro. So to load, it will take some time. Just wait for like 1 or 2 minutes, especially for the first time. Then everything will be loaded, desktop will be available. You can see the wallpaper and all. But what about the private subnet? There is no public IP, and you can't connect to the private subnet instances from your laptop. Okay, let me close this EC2 instance. Just I close it from the public subnet. Now let me try to log in to the private subnet. So there is no public IP, so I will enter private IP. You will get an error because it will try to connect with a 192.168.2.75. Because it's a private IP address, it will check within my network. There is no such machine exist and it will gives you an error. So already I said that is the purpose of the private subnet, right? Private subnet is not accessible from outside of the network. So to access the private subnet instances, we need to use a Bastion host. Bastion host. Few people also call it as jump server. So we must have a Bastion host. Amazon's AWS technical name is a Bastion host, but in the real world we call it as a jump server, management server, whatever it is. Okay, right. So directly you cannot log into a private subnet instances. To access your private subnet instances, you must have a Bastion host. What is a Bastion host? How to create all these things we will cover in the next video. If you have any questions in the VPC topic, feel free to reach me at any time. I will be happy to help you out. Thank you, everyone.